what happens if Visa goes into pay by bank or Mastercard does A or B or whatever big name you can think about in payments. What if they do what you do? How are you going to react? I think more and more the learning as you go along and you build companies is you understand that size doesn't matter. What tends to happen, and we did that mistake in 2021. Every investor was screaming for growth and invest more and go wider and try to do more things. And we ended up just being, average in a lot of stuff instead of being really good at or the best in a few things. And that really hurts us and our growth. So we kind of pivoted back to trying to do only a few things and be the best at them.
This podcast is sponsored by Pragmatic Solutions, the player account management platform chosen by today's smart betting and gaming operators. Don't let technical constraints delay you from achieving your business goals. Expand your business, boost your margins, and dominate the market in any leading regulated jurisdiction with our powerful, flexible, and secure iGaming platform. Enjoy its extensive marketing tools, compliance protection, real-time data, and a wide portfolio of over 1,000 industry providers. It's time to upgrade your technology. Let Pragmatic Solutions show you the modern approach. Visit pragmatic.solutions and join the smart thinkers.
This podcast is brought to you by Pragmatic Play, a leading game developer providing player favorites to the most successful brands across the industry. With an award-winning multi-product portfolio of slots, live casino, bingo, virtual sports, and more, Pragmatic Play is powering up new possibilities of play through one single API. Visit pragmaticplay.com and discover your favorite every time.
Bingo Bango Bongo, Johan Strand, CEO of Zimpler. Great to have you here in the podcast, Johan.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Nice to see you again, Per.
Yes, it's great to have a fellow Swede here in the podcast. So we'll have to switch over to English here, unfortunately, for the sake of our dear listeners. But great to have you here, Johan. And we had a really interesting prep call a while back to plan this session together. Obviously, you've been leading Zimpler now for quite a number of years. I think you joined something like 8 years ago, something like along those lines, right? It simply was just a startup at that time.
Exactly. Now it's starting to be so soon gold watch on me. It's 9 years this spring, and I've been the CEO for the last 4 years. So it's been quite an exciting journey. It's not the same company that I joined 9 years ago. That's for sure.
Oh, brilliant. And you started as CFO, obviously, in the company then 9 years ago. And I'm interested, first and foremost, to hear you talk a little bit more about the journey to date with Zimpler. I mean, you mentioned that it was just a startup when you joined the company at that point, and now it's become one of the fastest growing payment providers in Scandinavia. Talk about the journey.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I mean, when I joined Zimpler, my background is not within payments or fintech at all. So I'm an engineer from start, and I started my career in management consultant. I normally say that I become pretty good at doing PowerPoint presentations. But after a couple of years, I figured that I wanted to do something else. And this was 2016. So Klarna in Sweden was just, getting a bit hyped, and, people started to talk about fintech as a concept, I think, around that time. And I met with the two founders of Zimpler, and they were building this payment company. They had 10 people at the time, and they were looking for a CFO. So I figured, like, there's a 90% chance that this company will be bankrupt within 2 years, because that's just how startups work. So I will probably learn a lot from those 2 years. So I'm going to join and see what's happening. So I joined, and with 10 people, you need to learn fast about payments. And I mean, even if I joined as a CFO, you do everything, like from being product testing to beta tester to helping with marketing, sales. You do a little bit of everything. So it's been a really fun journey to go from there to where we are today. But just going back a little bit in history, when I joined, the product that they had was more of a wallet solution. So we had the invoice payment method, we handled card payments, etc. And I think the whole pitch when they started the company was a Klarna for online services, basically. So anything where you didn't need to send a physical product in the background. So when I joined, I joined as a CFO, and I'm a numbers guy by heart. So I started to look in the database. Okay, what are the customers? What are the transactions coming through? And it was a little bit of everything. And after a couple of years there, we started to focus more and more in the iGaming sector, and then we expanded that to kind of regulatory industries in general. And in 2018, we started to look into open banking and pay by bank. And we have one of our biggest competitors. It's a couple of 100 meters away from us in Sweden. Trusted. They were probably one of the first players in the pay by bank space in Europe. They started in 2008. But when we did the pivot, we also looked a lot on Swish in Sweden. So Swish is a local payment method in Sweden for those that doesn't know the name. But it's very interesting. It's been the most popular brand, all categories in Sweden for the last 12 years. Not the most popular payment method, the most popular brand. That's kind of
Wow.
amazing from a brand perspective that you can build a payment product that has that kind of brand value. And in its core, it allows end users to pay using their bank account. So we figured that there must be something here that if you can build the right UX and end user journey, consumer could actually prefer to use their bank account as their main point of making a payment and not their card or invoice. So that was our reasoning around us pivoting into the account to account and pay by bank space. And we took that strategic decision in 2018. Then we rebuilt our platform in 2019, and then we launched in actually December 2019. It was a fun story when we launched the product, and we got the first merchant on board, and they were working with Trust at the time in Sweden, and they were like, okay, they had been working with our former product, and they liked to work with us as a company, and the focus that we had on building great conversion in the payment product. So okay, we're going to take a little bet on you here, guys, and we're going to start, routing 10% of our traffic through your payment method instead of our current payment method. And they did that for 1 week, and then they came back and say, it works. We're gonna push 100% of the traffic over to you. And we're like, A,
Oh, wow.
great news, thank you. B, that there's 2 days away from Christmas Eve. Are you sure you want to do that? And they were like, yeah, but it works, right? There's no problem with the product. And of course, you cannot be a company with 13 people and say like, no, it doesn't work.
Yeah,
You
don't
need to
do
go
it. Yeah.
for it. So it was just cancel Christmas plan, and
Oh,
all
wow.
hands on deck, sitting and monitoring. So everything was working, transactions coming through, etc. But yeah, it worked as it should. So that was good.
Yeah, but that's a the exciting and dynamic situation with startups in general, that you just do what you have to do to break through as a company, right?
Yeah.
There is no Christmas in that regard. Like if you have that opportunity, right, the team just needs to come together and make stuff happen. I mean, as you point out, you're up against these massive incumbents that are well established, that've been doing their thing for years and years, that have big teams, more financial muscle. And here you come as a startup to try to break into to that space. I mean, there isn't really any way around it. You have to find your way into the space by any means if you want to have a chance at succeeding beyond those 2 years that you spoke about before.
No, for sure. That's just how it is. And that has always been a question, right? I mean, as a startup and as a growth company, we do also, certain periods when we have also raised capital to the company. I think you get that's the number one question, right? What happens if, Visa goes into pay by bank, or MasterCard does A or B, or, whatever big name you can think about in payments? What if they do what you do? How are you going to react? I think more and more the learning as you go along, and you build companies, is you understand that size doesn't matter. I mean, it's a popular phrase
Yeah.
in other areas of life as well, right? But also in building companies, because what tends to happen, and we did that mistake in 2021. Every investor was screaming for growth and invest more and go wider and try to do more things. And we ended up just being, average in a lot of stuff instead of being really good at, or the best in a few things. And that really hurts us and our growth. So we kind of pivoted back to trying to do only a few things and be the best at that. And I think that we have seen that over time, that when you have super hard focus, you have a team that have extreme grit, because you need to have grit when you work in the startup space, and maybe even more so if you work in connecting to gambling, because it's a volatile market with another new regulation. Something new is happening every week almost, and you're laser focused on providing value for your customers. That's where the magic happen, and that's also the beauty of being a smaller company, that you can be that laser focused, because there's so much growth and so much opportunity in the areas where you play. So you don't need to try to cover everything in the world, right? And that means that you can build that edge. And I think here at Zimpler we've seen it very clearly, especially over the last 2 years, where we have been extremely focused on the Nordics and maybe specifically Scandinavia, and built for regulated industries with all the complexity that comes with that, and every edge case you need to solve for. And that has really been our key growth driver, both winning new customers, but most importantly, building a super strong product that today is the best in the market. And when you can do that, then you can actually beat the incumbents and the one that have more muscles, because
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter the money that you put behind if you don't understand the core problem that you're trying to solve for.
Uh, and I think that is one of the most important lessons for any startup that is looking to launch, that you won't be able to go toe to toe with the incumbents on a general scale, right? So for pretty much any startup, you need to identify your niche, and you can be the best in that niche, right? And then when you
Yeah.
conquer that niche and you own that niche, then you can think about expanding outwards. And many of the biggest companies in the world today started from small niches. Facebook, great example, right? Start from one university, conquer that university, expand to the second university, third, fourth, and then to the large scale population. Whereas, for example, Google, the big incumbent, tried to launch a social media network in 2009 called
Yeah,
Google Plus that no one remembers. And
exactly.
they targeted the world from day one, and it just didn't work out, right? They wasn't able to retain those network effects. So it's just a great example, as you point out, of a company that start organically to build from a niche, and then expand from there. But you mentioned earlier, Johan, that was that perhaps a mistake then in the beginning in Zimpler's journey, that you didn't identify a niche? You said that you were kind of having your hands in a lot of cookie jars, and at some point along the road, you realized that it's better to just take a step back and own and identify and own those specific niches and build from there. Was there that process for you guys?
Yeah, 100%. So I think that's one of the biggest dangers in the startup phase. Like, both both in terms of the people that you attract to a startup, yeah, are people that are not afraid to take risks and chances, and most likely they have a lot of creative ideas. So all of a sudden you have a company, even though it's small, it's 20 people, with everyone just wanted to try new things and are not afraid to take risks and chances, and everyone are quite good at selling their ideas as well. So it ends up being 20 people that are selling their ideas to 20 other people that are not afraid to take risks and like taking new chances. So I think we fell into that trap, and were too excited about too many things and tried to execute on everything at the same time. And as the bandwidth is not there to do that. So um, that's been a learning curve for sure,
Yeah.
to understand that, find your niche, be best at what you do, and try to find the things that separates you from the incumbents and competitors. And
Yeah.
I
And
think
if
we
we
have really
fast,
tried. Yeah.
yeah,
No, go ahead.
if we fast forward to today, what would you say at this point that you are the best in the world at? Let's say, what niches do you own today, and what are you proud of today as niche, as simpler to in terms of your products?
Yeah, I would say regulated industries in the Nordic region. And with Nordic, we include like the Scandinavian and Baltics, the new bigger Nordic, if you will. Um, I think there we can proudly say today that we have the best product for those industries. I mean, we constantly measure, of course, our own metrics and our own performance, so we can see that. I mean, in payments, conversion is the key thing, right? How can you convert an end user to a paying customers? And there we see constantly now that we have the best metrics on that, which is something that we're super proud of. And also that was one of the reasons why now Swish just opened up for payment companies to become direct participant of the Swish network in Sweden. Previously, that's been exclusive for banks. And now when they open up, the first one that they choose to partner with was Zimpler. I think that's a clear testament to the steps that we have taken in these markets. Uh, but I would say that the KPI that I'm probably most proud of is that if we look at our merchants, so I mean, we're a payment company. So the only way for us to grow is if we handle more transactions. That means that we either win more merchants or our merchants that we work with are growing. And for us, if we work with growing merchants, that's the best testament to number one, that winning merchants want to work with Zimpler. I mean, that's great for us. And number two, that our product actually delivers and help them grow. And if we look, for example, take the Finnish market in the iGaming space, most relevant to the audience of this podcast, we can see that our merchants are outgrowing the market with 200%, which is, I mean, for us, that's the most amazing KPI because if they grow, we grow. So very simple equation. So whatever we can do to support that, we're extremely happy. Of course, there's, all the credits to our merchants because they have built, great end user experience and great brand value. But we hope that, by having the best conversion in the industry in their market, that we can say that we had some part with their success.
Yeah, that's certainly a KPI to be proud of. You mentioned earlier, Johan, in the conversation that Swish is the most popular brand in Sweden through and through, right? And it's just a testament to the importance of such innovation in the payment landscape. And this goes back to the fact that anytime there is a innovation within the payments landscape, the entire world changes. Right. I
Yeah.
mean, we go from using a credit card and plugging it into a machine to using contactless payments and using Apple Pay. It just opens up for a lot of more transactions and more. It generally removes friction. Is
Yeah.
kind of the aim within the payment innovation landscape, so to say. If you think forward now, what are the potential kind of game changers within the space of innovation? Like what is Zimpler looking at the moment when you think about developing your product and leveraging potential innovation of the future?
So there are a couple of things that I think is extremely interesting, especially where we are right now and how the industry is evolving. So one thing is of course that we work within regulated industries. That's our bread and butter. And then you have a lot of complexity also connected to payments and especially connected to identification, understanding like who is the person that is paying or getting their money paid out to them. So that's extremely important, and that puts some limits on what you can do. But then you have, AI is coming and it's coming big. You already see AI agents, reserving tables, going and shopping. I used to talk. I've been talking about this for a number of years. Like this is one use case that I'm extremely fascinated about that we will probably not go and solve ourselves. But was like, when can your refrigerator just scan everything you have in there and do automatic order for you? They say like, okay, Johan, he likes to have milk in his coffee in the morning. He's running out of milk. I will just go and order that. I will make the payment. I will have a 15-minute delivery through Foodora or Wolt or whatever is your preferred delivery choice, and it will be on the doorstep. Like that's the innovation that will come in the payment industry in general. I think when we in regulated industry and maybe if we focus on the iGaming industry for this conversation, I think it's extremely interesting to see how payments can be part of driving a change in end user behavior. So I think, okay, so take sports betting as an example. What will happen when every end user is using their AI agent to find, to calculate odds on different games and probabilities, and then go and find the best odds on that game, and then also place a bet. Like that's going to be really interesting. I think that's probably a couple of years away, but that's a future potential. Now, if you just take that and roll it back to where we are today, what is the next step? Well, probably one of the next steps is to kind of say, how can you make any surface on the internet a payable surface, or like if you can initiate a game or a bet from any kind of surface on the internet, whether that's from a banner where you go and read your sports news that, okay, this is the offer on this game, and you can just place your bet instantly there, or if it's within the ChatGPT window or widget, like wherever you should be able to start a gaming session from, you also need to be able to initiate the payment from that same place or identify the end user. So I think that's something that is very interesting over the next year or year and a half here to see how can one, what operators want to go and explore and innovate in that area, and then two, how can we as a payment company support and find solution for that? And I think that the technology is already there to solve for it. I think it's just combining and finding the right end user journey that is the next step. But I think that's something that we will see in the near future, and need to be able to facilitate. And I mean, that's a kind of an extension on Zimpler Go, or Trust is Pay and Play, and you bring that out into more settings and more streamlined formats. So that's something that will come really close. Then on the back end side of things, I'm also quite interested to see how we can help provide a better end user journey in the background. So if we talk to our merchants, a lot of the questions that they get in their customer support in their back office operation is in regards to payment, because I think the end users within the iGaming industry are probably the most impatient end users in the world. Like if they try to get money in and something doesn't work, they just refresh, go back, or want to understand what happened instantly. And the same if you want to trying to get your money out, like you want your money out instantly, now. And if anything happens, you ask a question to the operator directly. So we're starting to discuss. So we know that the merchants that we are working with, they are finding ways to automate their back office operations and using AI internally and stuff like that. And we have done that for some time. Now the next step here is how do we create end-to-end processes. So instead of an end user coming in, opening up the chat window, putting a question to the merchant, and then the merchant goes into our back office, find answers, or put a ticket to our customer support. Why doesn't the end user just open up the chat widgets and say if the question is in regards to payments? Well, the Zimpler AI will just respond directly to the end user in that widget. It will remove, time for our merchant, time for us, and the end user will get a better experience with instant answers from, your money is just landed on your bank account. Congratulations. I think that's something that we are also extremely focused on the kind of backside of operations. How can we help our merchants streamline their operations even more to in the end then be able to focus their time and energy and money on creating a better, player experience for their customers, which is the core of their business. So I think it's a lot of innovation that's going to happen both on the front end on how you onboard and allow players to pay from different settings and from any kind of surface, to how can you provide a better experience and reduce time and money spent on the back end side of the processes.
Yeah, it seems like most people agree that in the next coming years, with the use and with the progression of AI, a lot of processes will be more and more automated. We will take use of the AI to conduct more and more of our workflows and so on and so forth. And as you point out as well, it seems like within the world of payments, this is very tightly connected to any innovation that comes from the use of new interfaces like ChatGPT or just the general progression of AI will heavily impact your industry. It will be so tightly connected with the world of payments, with the new opportunities that will arise. So I'm curious to know, like, internally in Zimpler, how do you tackle this potential very disruptive time that we have ahead? Do you kind of organize some work groups internally that are thinking about these things? When you hire, do you think from kind of like AI expertise level and just general culture within the company? How are you embracing AI and so on? I'm curious to know how you set up these things internally.
So for us, it's been a step-by-step effort, which actually started 3-4 years ago with like any kind of leverage that you will be able to drive from AI is going to demand that you have a really good control of your own processes and data first. So because it is the old saying, shit in, shit out. So if you don't have control on what you're doing in your processes, and then you're trying to put the automation or AI on top of a process that is broken, it's just going to be more effectively broken, which is not good. So 3-4 years ago, we started to invest heavily in becoming more data driven as a company. So providing one seamless data platform across all our services, and looking at our core processes and trying to understand, okay, what processes are we doing that we shouldn't be doing? So start with eliminating, and then on the rest, seeing that, okay, what, how should these processes that we operate with, how should they work? How should the flow work? How should that connect with our merchants and end users for our merchants? So that was the starting point. And then over the last 12 to 18 months, we've been gradually working more to more with building applications on top of that. So last summer, we had our own kind of Zimpler AI where we could start asking questions in Slack directly. Okay, what's happening here, or what does this data look like, etc. As a beta launch. And so that's one thing, how we can leverage AI internally. Then the second thing is, of course, how can we get all teams and all employees to embrace new technology? And I guess you can use, the stick or the carrot. I think we're quite lucky still to be in a startup or scale up mode, and a lot of people that work here are super interested in trying to embrace new methods. And we see that across the organization. Take our marketing, for example. They've been laser focused on leveraging new tools that's coming out over the last 1.5 years, and have weekly competition who have found the next use case for Midjourney or ChatGPT or whatever tool it is, and they demo it internally. We actually had a quite fun exercise that we did around Christmas. We had a board meeting in our Stockholm office, and we did a AI challenge with the board, because everything starts from the top. So they got to create together with the marketing team. We divided them in 3 different groups and worked to create, using AI tools, a marketing campaign for Zimpler. So some were using ChatGPT to fine tune copy, some were using Midjourney, and so forth. And then we published it. That was a really fun exercise to do. And also, because obviously in the boardroom, they have been talking for the last 2-3 years, like, we need to automate. We used to leverage AI. And it was fun to kind of get them involved in, like, hands-on. This is what we're doing, and this is how we're working. So it's both, you need to have your shit together. So have your data in order, know what processes that you operate in, and try to leverage the correct processes and not bad process. 2, you need to get people on board and build the culture around that. And then 3, lead by example. It starts from the top if you want to get something done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious as well to talk about like disruption from AI. So you can imagine in the near future that white collar jobs will start to be affected, and perhaps the workforce doesn't need to be as substantial as it is today by replacing some of the tasks that are being done by AI. But then as an extension of that, you can also imagine, let's say within the iGaming industry, that some suppliers might become moot as well. You would imagine that a lot of operators, especially bigger ones, would be looking to vertically integrate more when it becomes easier to replace suppliers by building their own similar suppliers is by using AI agents and so on. So, for example, it's pretty easy today, right? Using AI to build a slot machine, for example, and that kind of makes it really easy to create a lot of slots internally. A lot of companies might see this as disruptive to their own business. Then, let's say, like, do you see any risk that the payment landscape could be at risk in that regard, that operators choose when it becomes easier to create products within the AI field to replicate what you're doing, for example? Or do you feel pretty safe in your corner?
You should never feel safe in your corner. I think that's the kind of starting point. But I think you're spot on, right? So with the new tools that are available and the ability to build stuff faster, obviously you can think about how do you then go and vertically integrate to get more of that capacity in-house. I still think that in the landscape in the future, regardless if you think about replacing a supplier within the game supplier space or payment space or whatever it is, the question will always be, okay, you need to invest to do something. Will I invest in removing this supplier, or will I invest in making my core product and my core offering better? And I think over time, companies that have invested in their core product and their core offering to their paying users have been the most successful. So I think that's going to remain a fact. Then if it's going to be easier to replace, maybe that will have more of a downward pressure on pricing and other things rather than you go and build it. But let's see how that plays out. For us as a payment supplier specifically, I think that there are some modes as well when it comes to regulation. So as a gaming operator, you might not want to sit and have, the monthly call with the FSA on top of your gambling commission as well, and build up that compliance. Because I think a lot of the work that needs to be done around having that license will probably start to become automated. But in the end of the day, I think those are the regulators that will change their processes the last in the world. I think that the FSAs around the world are probably the slowest one to adopt or be okay with saying that, no, it's fine. Run your AML processes fully without any person involved. The tech is already there for doing that, but they don't really want us to do that fully yet. I mean, end-to-end optimization of AML process has been like the hype in fintech for the last 3 years, but regulators would like to see some physical person have the final look into those things still. And I think that they will be the last ones to change. I don't necessarily think that's a positive thing for us, though. I would rather see, more openness and less regulations, and then, may the best company win rather than, sure, it is a moat for us today, but I would rather have those hurdles being a bit lower and less regulations across industries.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. The regulators are extremely risk averse, and their existence is there not to make mistakes, basically, and ensuring that their framework that they know and trust stays the way that it is for as long as possible.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so changing pace a little bit from innovation into relationship building. So what I find interesting in commercial, B2B companies like what you do is sometimes the best product doesn't always win necessarily. The success in your business and other B2B businesses is often very predicated on the relationship building aspects, right? For customers to take on board your product, they need to feel like they trust you. They need to feel like this is good people to work with. You can create long-term relationships. So I want to kind of ask you, how do you think about relationship building within Zimpler? What has been like some of the keys to success in your organization to first and foremost get a customer across the line, but then also retaining that customer and kind of building a trustable brand to other potential new customers, especially from a post-COVID perspective. It's interesting to hear, how that part of your company might have changed.
I think you're spot on. I mean, relationship is so important. For me, and this is something that we've been saying in Zimpler since I joined. Like at the end of the day, you don't do business with Zimpler. You do business with me. Like people buy stuff from other people. That's like we are very basic to our nature in that sense. Like at the end of the day, we will sit across the table and we'll shake hands and say, "Yes, I want to do business with you," and then you represent Zimpler and I like your product, but I also need to trust you. Right? If I think that you are the worst possible human on the face of the earth, it doesn't matter how good your product is or prices or whatever it is. I don't want to do business with you. Um, that's been one of the strengths from Zimpler ever since I started here. And I think that starts with the culture that you're building. I think we have always been from when I joined the company, they had a Swedish word, like we're the schysstare. I guess it's like the nicer payment company.
I like
I
it.
think now one of our core principles is respect, and respect both internally to colleagues, but to merchants and to everyone around us. Like you should deliver on what you promised that you were going to deliver. You need to respect. You show up for this podcast in time. I don't come 15 minutes late, so you need to sit and wait, etc. Like it's basically respect for other people. You respect their opinion. It doesn't mean that you cannot disagree, but you should. But you respect the other person. I think if everything starts from there, then you have a good foundation of building relationship. And then what we've seen in terms of with our merchants, that was quite funny when we pivoted into the product that we have today. many of our merchants were like, we just love to work with you. So when you have this product, please come and talk to us because we want to work with you. And that's a really good start. But I think it's very interesting around relationship now after post-COVID era. So, I mean, we've seen it ourselves that we tend to take more and more of customer meetings. Like in 2017, 18, like most of those meetings were face to face, in office, live. And then during COVID, you couldn't do that. And you started to have more of these calls, which is super efficient. So that's great from that perspective. But from a relationship building perspective, I think that we have kind of taken a step backwards, which I think is bad for everyone. And that was actually something we joined the next conference in Valletta here. What was it, a month or so ago? And we had a dinner one of the evenings with a lot of our customers. And there was a lot of people that brought this up that I actually started missing having more physical meeting and just having a coffee and building that, meaningful relationship that you might not get through a call like this. I think having the opportunity and ability now to drive more work, remote, digital, and working, that's obviously great, and it's great, especially in the gambling space with merchants sitting in different countries and everyone is going global and you cannot, travel all the time. But I think it's so important to not forget the human side of building those relationships. And I think that's one of the core reasons why we as a company like to work with Next and go to your conferences, because they're so centered around that human interaction and building those relationships. You might go to ICE and you're thrown in a big room with, I don't know, 40,000 people. It's really hard to find those spots and opportunities to build a relationship. But when you're at the smaller venue, when your focus are so high on quality and not quantity, that's when you build relationship. You go to one of the talks and there's meaningful content coming out, and then you have a discussion with a merchant or a partner around that. I mean, then you start to build that relationship, and then you go for a drink in the evening or a dinner. That's how you build that meaningful relationship. And I think it's so easy to forget, especially now when everyone is trying to be so super efficient. We're automating everything. We're doing everything digital. We're taking all these calls, and I can sit and work from home and I have back-to-back meetings from 8 in the morning to 8 in the evening. And then you come out of the day and like, did I build meaningful relationship today? Did I actually connect with another human, like deeply connect? No, most of the time not, but you're super efficient.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it's a good point. And by the way, Johan, you're a great hype man. If you ever consider to come on board as a hype man here at Next, we have positions open, by the way. So yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for the plug. But if we take a step back and just kind of break down what you're saying, you're absolutely right. The difference between, say, a conference like ICE and other expos, where oftentimes the KPI and the sales department is how many meetings did you book? Right? And sometimes those meetings can become very impersonal because you have 15 minutes and you're already thinking about your next meeting. Oh, how far is it that I need to go? And so you're not really that present in the meeting. And at the end of the day, what's the difference of sitting in a very impersonal, transactional meeting in person or just doing it digitally? It's not really that much difference between those two. Whereas if you take that more casual approach to have real human conversations, it's not necessarily to close a deal perhaps then and there, but you take this longer sales cycle approach where you recognize that building trust and building friendships and establishing yourself as a trustable person leads to business perhaps later on, right? And that could be, a year later or something like this, but, it takes time to build a relationship with people. And it's just a different approach in selling perhaps.
yeah.
And just, being yourself, bringing your personality into the picture as well.
100%. You're so right. And I think most people forget about it because also when things are going well in a business relationship, like everything works as it should and there's no disruption, like it's not as important, right? But it comes down when someone is having a problem or someone having an idea that, look, I have this idea that I want to go through. Like you want to be the one that they call, and that's down to relationship. Or when they have a problem, like feeling that they will come and you will discuss it and you will find a good win-win solution to that problem. I think it's really interesting. When I was working as a management consultant, we were working with a postal office here in the Nordics, and it's very interesting fact that when we evaluated their customer support work, the happiest customers that they had was customers that had problems, and then had the feeling that they had been giving a good solution to their problem. The ones that never experienced any problem or no complaints, they were okay. They were like 7 out of 10 happy. The one that was 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 were the ones that had encountered problems and like this doesn't work, and then got really good support or help for it. And the one, of course, that hated everything was the one that had encountered problem and thought that like, this company is the worst to work with. I'm not getting any help. And I think
Yeah,
that reflects on relationship as well. I think like you test the relationship when something doesn't go the way it should, or
100%.
and 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 when you solve that together in a respectful way, then you come out having built an even tighter relationship and
100%.
a greater understanding of each other.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a great way of putting it, Johan. And I think a great business principle is to say, whenever there's always going to be problems. Like, so
Yeah,
it would be the wrong thing, the wrong strategy to say in our company, we are going to eliminate issues with customers. This is never going to happen. Like, there's always going to be fuck ups. There's always going to be issues. But what matters is how you deal with those fuck ups. And you should see screw ups as opportunity. Like this is an
exactly.
opportunity to strengthen relationship. That's what they are,
Yeah,
right? And it can
yeah.
go either way. So let's see it as an opportunity and go in with that mindset, and then you'll do well for sure with customers.
I think that's how you need to work it, and you're exactly right. I think people that think like this, we are never doing anything wrong. Like we're 100% perfect all the time. Like the world doesn't work like that, but it's how you react to problem,
Yeah,
like small or big, like how you
yeah,
react and how you treat your customers or your colleagues. That what's shows the real relationship, and
yeah,
that's something that we try
100%.
to be the best at as well.
Yeah, it's a great business principle for sure. Final question for you here today, Johan. I know you're a busy man, so I'm gonna let you go in a little bit. Where do you see Zimpler in 3 years' time? Like now, if you now zoom into the future, where is things heading? Right? You come from the startup mentality. You're identified where you're going. You're one of the fastest growing fintech companies in Scandinavia. In 3 years' time, what is Zimpler at that point?
Yeah, so the most important thing I think is that we're going to continue to be laser focused and trying to be best at everything that we do. So for us, that going to mean that we will stay within regulated industries and not venture outside of that, which is great because from a merchant perspective, then you know that whatever you pay us in fees is going to be reinvested into products that you need. You're not going to see us go and spend 50 million on building a great solution for e-commerce in Germany. So you can rest assured that whatever you pay us will be reinvested into your business. Then we're going to expand a bit geographically. So we just got our license in the Brazilian market, which is obviously a very interesting market from the iGaming perspective. So we got that over the line here 3 weeks ago. So we were in the market pre-regulations. Now we needed a different license to be able to operate post-regulations, and we got that. So that's an area that we will expand in. I think that LATAM region in general is extremely important. From a product perspective, we're trying to solve more problems for our merchants. So we're handling the payments, and we're doing that extremely well. We're handling identification, we're doing that really well. And now we're trying to see how can we help our merchants by building this end-to-end processes, whether that is for customer support or financial operations or for AML. How can we help our merchants reduce their time spent and effort spent and money spent on back office operations and focus on building the best player journey and player experience in the world. So that's something that we are looking forward to, like continue to integrate our way actually into our merchants' back office operations, where they might feel that this is not our core, and we can go and focus on building our core. So to your point around vertical integration, we see it also as an opportunity where we actually can support a bit more. So we do have merchants that we're having discussions with around treasury operations across LATAM, which is super cumbersome today and extremely expensive. So how can we support more in the areas where we think that we are very good to allow our merchants to win in the areas where they are really good?
Brilliant. We have a good basis to follow up here in a couple of years' time, Johan, to see if all the things came true and more, I'm sure.
Looking forward to
Thank you.
it.
Thank you so much for the time together here today, Johan. It's been great to get to know you a bit more and to learn more about the future of Zimpler. I wish you all the
Thank you.
best.
Thank you for having me.